So let's do the letter A. In the Gothic alphabet, as with most of the other calligraphic fonts, the letter A is actually an oddball letter. So in many ways, it's a strange place to start. I just want you to know that right from the beginning. Many calligraphy courses will actually start with O's and N's and M's and so forth, and let you learn the basics and then move on to the oddball letters. But if you're like me, you're just kind of stuck in the habit of always beginning with the letter A. So that's where we're going to start. So first thing I want you to do is grab your double pencil, right? You've got that put together. And I'm going to be using graphics paper that is somewhat transparent, translucent. And I've made myself a guide sheet. You can absolutely do the same thing for you. And I'm going to put a piece of paper on top of that, and there I'm ready to go. Now, you remember our angle thing, right? 1, 2, 3 and a bit. And most of the time, the angle is going to be 3 and a bit. Except for the very first stroke. On the letter A, we're already changing it up. I told you it was an odd letter. And for this one, for the first stroke, you're actually going to hold your letter at about, your pen rather, at about a number 2 angle. Let me show you why. If you held it at the traditional angle, this leg of the letter would be too fat. We don't want it that fat. So we're going to turn, see on my wrist, my elbow is moving out. So my pen is at about a number 2 angle, and that gives me a nice thin line for that first stroke of the A. That's the first stroke. Now, there are a lot of details in all of these Gothic letters, and I'm going to have to talk fast. So listen, you start at the top, but you do not go all the way to the bottom. You stop, about that far from the bottom. Then again, unless otherwise notified, you always go back to the 3.2 angle of your pen. And you're going to do a stroke starting at the baseline. Can you see my baseline there? And you do a curve like this and stop. The next stroke is the other side of the A, holding at traditional angle now, 3 point something, and then a little uptick. Now, do you see that hook right there? And again, if this is your first letter, as I'm assuming for many of you it will be, you'll see a lot of that in the Gothic alphabet. Now I'm back to traditional angle, stroke there, going back to the top, traditional angle. There are 2 ways to do this next curve, and it depends on the tool that you are using whether you can do one way or not. If the ordinary way is you just hold your pen at a traditional angle and draw one curve all the way like that, so it's fat at the top and fat at the bottom. The other way to do it is to start out this way, and then as you come around, lift up. You don't really get the effect with the pencil, but the effect is it gets skinny, so it's fat at the top, skinny at the bottom. That's an option. It depends on the nature and the working of the tool that you're using, whether you can do that. Does that make sense? And then here's this little curve that is ubiquitous. That means it shows up everywhere. Every letter has at least one of these. I think they all have 2, except for the letter A that only has 1. So it's this little curve here, and I'll in fact talk more about how to do that later on. Now the only thing we're missing on this letter A is the horizontal stroke in the middle. And again, I don't want to hold it at the traditional angle because I think that will make that stroke too fat. So now we're going to go the other way and hold it either at a number 4 or a number 5, depending on which thickness you think looks best. I'm right there. I'm holding it at about a 4.5 angle. Does that make sense? Not quite horizontal, which would be the skinniest. And that's the letter A. Whew. That was a lot of stuff, wasn't it? Let me do it one more time on a clean piece of paper with the pencils again, without so much talking, just so you can see it. Ready? Here we go. Angle 2. Stop before you reach the bottom. Curve at traditional angle. Back to the top, traditional angle on the pen. Not quite to the bottom. Then kick out, and then this little tiny foot there. Curve up here, I'll do it the simple way. It's fat at the top, fat at the bottom, and then this little inside curve like that, and then angle 4.5 for the mid-stroke. That's the letter A. Now let's do it with a pen, shall we? So I'm using a Speedball C, and this is C1. Here's my guidelines for a capital. Again, number 2 angle, stop there, start at the baseline, back to the baseline, back to the top of the letter, straight down. That is a straight line, not vertical, straight line, foot and toe. Can I call that a foot and toe? And then this angle right there. Now, back to this curve, and let's see if a speedball, yeah. See, I just turned it real gently as I went around, and it made it fat at the top, thin at the bottom. Then this little hook right in here, what should we call these? Hooks? Good enough. And then the cross beam, again, turning my elbow comes into my side, and I'm holding my pen now at about a number 4 or 4.5 angle. Got it? That's the capital A. Now, let's do the lowercase. The good news is the lowercase is much simpler than the capitals. Here are my guidelines. Do you see this? Here are my guidelines for the lowercase letters. And with almost all the lowercase letters, the angle that you're going to hold is 3.2, whatever that is, for all of them. Very rarely do you change it with the capital letters, with the lowercase letters, rather. This stroke is vertical, and then back to the foot with the toe. Now go up to this joint and come straight down. You see I'm following the angle of my pen, then a vertical, angle, and straight up. So these two lines are parallel to each other. Got that? Because they are, in fact, at that 3 point whatever angle. That's the way I'm holding my pen. That determines the angle at which those lines go. Then back to the top of the A, there I'm going to give you an option here as well. You can either just go straight out like that and call it quits, or depending on the tool you're using, you can curve down like this, sometimes even curve all the way down to the body of the A. That's an option that you have. Let me do it one more time without so much talking. From the top, vertical, angle. And you understand these two lines should be parallel to each other. Vertical, angle, angle. And then back to the top. I'll put a little hook on it. Got it? Now let's do a lowercase a with the pen. And again, here's my X height, my guideline for lowercase letters with a pen that is this wide. Angle, vertical, angle, toe. Angle, vertical, angle, angle. And then this part. And I'm going to turn my pen. This particular tool allows me to turn my pen so that I can get a thin line there. Let me do that again. Angle, vertical, angle, toe. Angle, vertical, angle, and angle. Now I hope you're seeing already, and then this flag at the top. I hope that you're seeing that all of these lines are essentially parallel. Let me go back to the pencil just for a moment. In other words, all the lines that go this way are parallel to each other. All the lines that go this way are parallel to each other. And all the vertical lines, of course, are parallel to each other. Get it? So the look of the Gothic lowercase is very diamond-ish. Now, I just want to add one detail that's quite important, and I won't mention this on all the letters. That is, if you want to accentuate the sharp diamondness of the letters, you can actually add just a tiny little hook, a tiny little boop. See, I'm making my pen go the opposite direction right there at each intersection. In other words, I overshoot the mark a little bit, come down. So now I have basically the same. Can you zoom in and see that real well? Here's the first letter I did. This one has all these little tiny hooks or horns or hangnails on it. Does that make sense? And that's just an option that you have with all of the Gothic script. Makes it look just a little bit more angular, sharp-edged, Gothic-ish. Man, that's the letter A. We're off to a great start.